Dear participants, I think we are ready to start. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. It is a pleasure for me to welcome you to this workshop that aims to prepare you to the upcoming Commission on Narcotic Drug thematic discussions and to explain how civil society can engage in the preparation for the 2024 midterm review of the 2019 Ministerial Declaration. My name is Mirella Dumafrai. I know that among the participants there are many who knows us well, but still, for those who don't know us, we are the Civil Society Unit in UNODC Vienna headquarters, and we work directly under the Division of Policy and Public Affairs, actually under the Director, Jean-Luc Lemayeux. This workshop is organized with the Vienna NGO committee and with our main counterpart, NGO umbrella organization when it comes to drugs, and the UNODC Secretariat of the governing body that oversee the CND meeting. So thank you, Matthias and Lucia, to be here. You will hear later more of them. But now I would like to pass the floor to Sarah Pichler from my unit, and who also have to help because she is also the project officer for the Vienna NGO committee, and she will help you with some housekeeping matters.
Thank you, Mirella, and it's great to see so many of you here online. And I just wanted to say that the webinar is being recorded. Will be made available on UNODC and the Civil Society Unit's website probably tomorrow. And in case you need to leave early, you can listen to the recording later on. We also have interpretation for this session, so if you do want to listen to French, Spanish, or Russian, please select the little interpretation button with the globe symbol on the bottom of your screen. And select the language you want to listen to. You might hear a low voice of the English channel in the interpretation channel continuously. You can mute that voice if it bothers you. We'll also have several Q&A sections during the webinar. We do encourage you to use the Q&A box because it makes the panelists' lives a lot easier to see questions there. You can see the chat moves very quickly and it's hard to keep track. However, you can also raise your hand in case you want to ask a question out loud. We can't promise you that that's going to work, but we'll do our best. Yes, with that, I'll give the word back to Mirella.
Thank you, Sarah. And as you see, we are both in green to make sure that SDG 3, which is about health, is really the color also is there. And this is one, I think, of the main role of civil society to ensure that all the people can have a healthy life. To come back to the CND, it has been holding this similar thematic discussion since 2016 when we had the intersessional, since UNGAS, and they have proved to be very useful for both member states and civil society to exchange good practice and lessons learned on a full range of topics and challenges identified in the 2016 UNGAS outcome document, and also since 2019 on the ministerial declaration. This thematic discussion have opened also an opportunity to hear better the voice of NGOs. And obviously, NGOs have a crucial role to ensure, as I said before, that all people can live a healthy life and do not fall in the trap of criminals that aims to destroy their and their family life. I'm confident that by working together, we will continue to strengthen civil society engagement in the international drug policy commitments and to help ensure that ultimately this saves as many lives as possible, lives that are affected by the world drug problem. So what can you expect from the workshops today? This workshop will provide you, especially to those who are new to the CND thematic discussion, with knowledge and tools that are necessary for the effective engagement. And this is really a key for your meaningful participation. We will also touch on the speaker selection process, considering that you still have 1 week to apply to be a speaker. And I'm sure Matish will provide valuable insight on how to submit these relevant abstracts. And we will have Lucia, who will tell us more about the upcoming discussion in October, specifying the themes. So I will not go through this. It's really a pleasure to have all of you. And I think I would like now to give the floor to Lucia Gonzalez Lopez from UNODC Secretariat of the Governing Body. Lucia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mirella, for giving me the floor. Let me just put the presentation on presentation mode. Can you all see the slides? Yes, good. Okay, thanks. So yes, my name is Lucia Gonzalez. I'm, as Mirella said, working for the Secretariat to the Governing Bodies here in Vienna. And basically our work is to support all the work of the commissions, both the Commission on Narcotic Drugs, which is the one that brings us here today, but also the sister commission, which is the Commission on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice. So we support the work of the chair and the work of the commissions and all the broader membership in general. I believe that most of you are quite familiar with the work of the CND, if I'm not mistaken, so I will not go into the basic information. I will jump straight into first the 2024 midterm review. Then we'll have a Q&A, and then I will touch a bit more in detail on the October thematic discussions of the CND. So, and if there are any questions, of course, please feel free to ask at the end of the session. So as I was saying, and as you all know, the Commission on Narcotic Drugs, or the CND, is the key drug policy making body within the United Nations, and over the past decade, it has developed and adopted a number of key policy documents. The last one of which is the Ministerial Declaration of 2019. And in that document, member states agreed to focus more on the practical implementation of all the commitments that had been adopted in the past, so since 2009. And this ministerial declaration also identified 11 key drug-related challenges that span a broad range of topics, but it quite comprehensively tackles all aspects of the world drug problem. Now, to follow up on this ministerial declaration, the Commission adopted this work plan from 2019 until this year, 23, and in it agreed to hold annual thematic discussions. Each year, it focused on 2 or 3 of the thematic challenges that were identified in the declaration. And as rightly mentioned by Mirella, these thematic discussions are a bit more informal in nature. So the regular session that is held in March every year is more formal and has a very specific agenda items, list of speakers, and so on. Whereas for the thematic discussions, it's equally inclusive. So it includes a broad range of stakeholders from member states, international intergovernmental organizations, NGOs, and so on. But it's thought to be more of a spontaneous Q&A, if you may, session where people exchange good practices and expertise. Now, with the last year's thematic discussions, we covered all 11 challenges, and I will say a bit more about the thematic discussions this year later. But important is to remember that in this declaration, member states agreed to have a final review in 2029, of how far we have come in effectively implementing these drug policy commitments, and there will be also a 2024 midterm review, so marking the midpoint of this implementation. Of course, we're coming very, very close to this midterm review, and so we have been preparing quite a lot for it over the course of this year. In March, during the regular session this year, the Commission adopted a resolution, which we call the modalities resolution, and which indicated how this midterm review would take place, how it will conduct it. So in terms of the format and the outcome. So the resolution, which is, by the way, publicly available on the website, we have also created a website for the 2024 midterm review itself. You can see how it was decided that this midterm review would be consisting of a 2-day high-level segment. This will take place on the 14th and 15th of March next year. And this is right before the regular session, so the 5-day meeting in March. And this 2-day high-level segment will consist of 2 parts. On the one hand, there will be a general debate where all the stakeholders can make their own oral statements or via a video message, and a second part consisting of roundtables. And these roundtables will focus, one of them on the topic of taking stock, what work has been undertaken since 2019, and one that is more forward-looking, talking about the road to 2029. Now, these roundtables will be held in parallel to the general debate, which might be important to know if you want to attend one or the other, right? The outcome of these roundtables, as usual practice, will be a non-negotiated co-chairs summary. So it will be a summary of the deliberations, and this will be prepared and approved by the chair. The outcome of this midterm review, this was a more heavily negotiated part of the resolution, in which, in the end, all the member states agreed to adopt or to work in good faith towards adopting a concise and action-oriented document, which would focus on taking stock of the progress made so far and indicating the way forward on how to accelerate the implementation of all the existing commitments. Now, the negotiations for this document will start in December, right after the new chair of the Commission will be elected. So there will be actually a relatively short time for negotiation, considering that there are other high-level events and negotiations taking place in parallel, but we hope that something meaningful will be coming out of the review. And of course, the civil society engagement is a big part of this, and the resolution itself touches upon how NGOs are expected to participate in the process. Whereas in the general debate, NGOs in consultative status with ECOSOC will be invited to attend, and they will be able to take the floor. It will be the same in the 2 multi-stakeholder roundtables. So there will be an invitation to NGO representatives who are in consultative status with ECOSOC, and the roundtables themselves will consist of a panel. So 1 panel per roundtable, and in this panel, there will be 1 panelist per regional group, meaning 5 regional groups that we have at the UN. And there will be 1 panelist from civil society organizations that will be nominated through the Vienna NGO committee. And there will also be in the panel up to 2 UN entities. But just so you know that there is a space, as has been in the past, for NGOs and CSOs to contribute to the discussions. Now, the interventions by the panelists will be followed by a more interactive discussions or interventions from the floor, and they each have a bit of a strict time limit because the idea is to hear as many voices as possible. So of course we cannot have everybody speaking for 20 minutes. what we do is to limit this, and panelists will have 5 minutes speaking time, and interventions from the floor will be maximum of 3 minutes. I'm not sure I'm forgetting anything at this stage. Now there will be a Q&A, so there's plenty of time to discuss, but just so you know that on the 25th of October, which is the last day of the thematic discussions in October, the chair of the CND will provide a briefing to all interested stakeholders on more detailed organizational arrangements for the midterm review. This will be at lunchtime, so 25 October from 1 to 3 p.m. You may want to take note and join because more details will be provided at that stage. And I think I briefly end here because the next part will be focusing a bit more on the CND thematic discussions. So I give the floor back to, I'm not sure, VNGOC committee.
Thank you, Lucia. I think we can open in case there are questions and then go to Matiesh so that you can cover already. Is that the plan, Sarah? Yeah. So if there are any questions directed to Lucia.
We have one question in the Q&A box regarding joining the multi-stakeholder roundtable. And they're asking if it can be any organization, or if they need ECOSOC status, or if there is a possibility to directly speak on behalf of VNGOC and borrow the ECOSOC status.
Mm-hmm. So for all those who will have a speaking role, this of course will be organized through the VNGOC committee. They are the ones who nominate those who have a speaking role. However, the deliberations are open to all. If you want to observe the deliberations, they are going to be also webcast on UN Web TV. So even for those who haven't registered, they are going to be publicly available. And for the speaking role, this indeed has to be managed through the VNGOC committee. In the resolution, it clearly says that it has to be those NGOs who have ECOSOC status. In the past, what we have sometimes done is that NGOs without ECOSOC status, if they're nominated by the VNGOC committee, they may be able to speak on behalf of another NGO who does have NGO consultative status. I hope this clarifies the question.
Thank you. And then I think a rather easy one, during the roundtable discussion next March, will there be interpretation in the usual UN languages?
Yes, indeed. Both for the high-level segment and the CND, the regular sessions, there is always interpretation provided. It's a major event, and this will be provided, yes, in all 6 languages of the UN. And I see another comment, if I may, for a speaking roundtable role, must the NGO be in person or provide hybrid? It will be held in hybrid format as well. So yeah, both options are possible. Of course, if you are able to speak in person, that's even better maybe, but it will be possible both online and in person. And I see no more open questions.
I would suggest now that we move to the presentation of the chair of the VNGOC committee, Matej Kursic. And I know there are some questions, but probably, then we can combine the answers. So I would ask for those who had raised their hand to be patient. We wanted to have 1 or 2 just to keep the focus on the presentation, but let's move on now to Matej. The floor is with you, Matej.
Okay, thank you very much. Good day to everybody. I hope it's not night in some in some parts of the world already. So dear colleagues and friends, thanks to really many of you to attend this online workshop. I hope you will all get all valuable information and instructions you need for your active engagement at the CND thematic discussions in October and also in December, and also in all our activities and events which are related to midterm review in 2024. So our attention in the following weeks and months will be focused on the preparations for the next year's midterm review of the 2019 Ministerial Declaration, based on the modalities resolution adopted at the last CND session in March this year by consensus. Civil society, especially through Vienna NGO Committee itself and our partners, such as New York NGO Committee, ad hoc regional and thematic working groups, in collaboration with the UNODC's Civil Society Unit and others. So the civil society will play an important role towards implementing the existing commitments. So the document guarantees the participation of NGOs in both the general debate and also, as it was already mentioned, into interactive multi-stakeholder roundtables during the high-level segment in March 2024. As stated at the closing CND plenary session this year by our statement, we want to reassure all member states of our commitment to support and ensure the meaningful, respectful, and productive participation of NGOs throughout this process. It has been the case during all previous thematic discussions on different topics listed on the slide from 2019 until last year. For the 2024 CND midterm review, Vienna NGO Committee has been mandated to coordinate civil society engagement at the high-level segment, but also in thematic discussions in autumn this year. So it is also my pleasure to, so this is also important related to this slide, also a pleasure to announce today that Vienna NGO Committee and New York NGO Committee have agreed on collaboration agreement, which will significantly strengthen our joint efforts for better engagement of the civil society during the midterm review preparation process and beyond. We also count on very active involvement and engagement of our ad hoc regional and thematic working groups, Asia Pacific Working Group, Africa Working Group, Latin America Working Group, and Youth Working Group to prepare quality inputs for the midterm review related activities and actions. Most of our activities in autumn this year and the winter next year will be conducted in cooperation with the UNODC's Civil Society Unit. It would be much more difficult, or I would say impossible, for us to do all this work without their support and active collaboration. So thank you, Mirela, and your team, and especially we have to mention Sarah, for all support in these processes. So the first round of thematic discussions, which will be also presented later by Lucia, will happen very soon in October, between 23rd to 25th October. And the second round will be in December, just before the CND reconvene. As you can see, we have been very successful in negotiations and got 36 civil society speaking slots for both rounds of thematic discussions, which is excellent, but also a huge responsibility to bring the best possible speakers from our side to both events, in person or online. So October discussions will be focused more on supply reduction, drug control conventions, and crime-related matters, and the December's thematic discussions will be more related to health-related matters. Between the two rounds of thematic discussions, we will, together with our partners, organize several regional consultations, and we are doing our best to get some additional funding to be able to organize at least some of them in person, which will definitely improve mobilization of civil society organizations from different continents, and at the same time, more quality impact on the civil society, inputs for the midterm review 2024 discussions. And very soon we'll come out with, just a moment. Oh, this is also related to this. Oh, some slides have changed. So yeah, this is the right one. So it is important to highlight as well why it is important for the civil society organizations to engage in policy and decision-making processes at UN level, especially with the CND, which is a central policy-making body at the UN of the UN drug control system. One of the reasons is that member states need to hear from us and from experience in the ground to better make informed decisions. Second reason is that this is a great opportunity for all of us to promote and enhance our work and our NGOs. And the third reason is that there are not so many channels to influence decisions at the UN level, and this is definitely the best one to engage ourselves in policy and decision-making processes at the CND. By doing so, we can influence and inform decisions made also by our national, also regional or local governments. So it's not just important from the international perspective, but also from the perspective of influencing our national context. And very soon, we will come out with some ideas and instructions and plans on how to collect inputs from regional and thematic consultations and compile them into a comprehensive report, which will be then presented in January 2024, and finally at the midterm review high-level segment and at the 67th CND in March 2024. The report will be distributed widely to UN agencies and member states as well. And Vienna NGO Committee, together with New York NGO Committee and our partners, will coordinate the civil society speaker selection process in January and February 2024 for the roundtable discussions during the high-level segment in March. So we just introduced why it is important to be engaged in these processes. So for those civil society organizations which are still not our members, we welcome you to join us. It's, I would say, relatively easy and simple process. You just go to our website and fill out the application form, and then Vienna NGO Committee's board will meet and admit new members, and usually we do that once every 2 months. So the process is relatively quick. You get the approval if you fulfill some criteria of the membership. And first of all, you need, of course, to work in the field of narcotic drugs. That's the first criteria, at least partly. It's not necessary that you are 100% involved in this field, but at least partly you have to be connected with the drug field. And also, you need to be registered with the UNODC, which is UN Department of Social Affairs. So this is also, you can go to their website and check if you are already registered. If not, then please register first and then apply for membership. Also, once you are admitted as members, there is also obligation by members to pay the membership fee. At least for the members in good standing, by paying membership fee, you can then be involved in different decision-making processes and also participate at the annual General Assembly every year. Usually, we organize the annual general meeting during the CND week in March in Vienna. Also, I would like to promote and ask you to contribute as much as possible to our NGO marketplace. It's a great opportunity for members and also for other NGOs to connect to each other, to communicate to each other, to post your news, announcements of different events. It's also mobile friendly, so you can check very easily all the news and information on your mobile phones. So we really promote that you use this platform, which was actually developed for us to connect us much better online. So you can also find different partners in different parts of the world for different activities or projects. Find also speakers for your events and education and training courses. So it's very valuable tool which you can use almost on a regular basis. So check it on our website as well for more information. And before we go to the next session and questions and answers, I'm really pleased to give the floor and the screen to Nazli, a chair of the New York NGO committee, to present briefly. Nazli, the screen and the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mate. Everyone can hear me well? I think there's just a bit of echo. Okay, perfect. It's been resolved. Thank you so much, Mate, for giving me the floor. And thanks to everyone who's joined us for this discussion today. It's great to see so many of you in the virtual room. Dear colleagues, as mentioned, my name is Nazli Maksudi, and I'm chair of the New York NGO Committee on Drugs, or the NYNGOC. And for those who might not know, the NYNGOC is a substantive committee of the Conference of NGOs in Consultative Status with the UN, or the Congo. We've supported civil society in engaging with the UN on international drug policy and practice since as far back as 1984, which means that actually we'll be following in the VNGOC's footsteps and next year by turning 40 as well. So we're really looking forward to celebrating together in Vienna with all of you then. Looking backwards for a moment, since the creation of our respective independent committees in the 1980s, there's been a really long history of collaboration between the New York NGO Committee on Drugs and the Vienna NGO Committee on Drugs. Of course, a key recent example that's come up already today was the formation of the Civil Society Task Force that facilitated global NGO participation at the UN General Assembly Special Session on Drugs, or the UNGAS, that took place in 2016. And then we, of course, revived and regrouped for the ministerial segment of the 62nd session of the Commission on Narcotic Drugs in 2019. There's also been other key examples long before my time of the partnership across our sister committees, including the Global NGO Forum known as Beyond 2008, the NGO Village during the 1998 UNGAS on Drugs, as well as an international forum in conjunction with the 1987 International Conference on Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking that led up to the adoption of the 1988 Convention, among others as well. And really, this cross-committee collaboration, it's proven critical time and time again to ensuring broad and inclusive civil society participation by really leveraging the regional and thematic diversity that exists across our respective committee memberships. So as Mate mentioned, building upon the success of these and other cross-committee collaborations, the VNGOC and New York NGOC have agreed to again work together as equal partners in the preparatory process for and during the 2024 midterm review of the 2019 Ministerial Declaration. I can assure everyone that we have really committed board members across both of our committees. We also have established precedents to inform and guide our work together, like those that will be outlined, I believe, by Penny today in speaking about the guidelines for selecting civil society speakers, which are particularly relevant as well for the upcoming October thematic discussions. As for past high-level meetings, the overarching goal of our joint work is always to ensure comprehensive, structured, meaningful, and balanced participation in civil society. And this time, of course, we'll be focusing in on the preparations for and during the 2024 midterm review. I think Mate did a great job of reiterating why such civil society participation is imperative to international drug policy proceedings. And I know that we are really able to achieve this most effectively when we partner across our two committees. So I'm really looking forward to continuing our history of collaboration as we approach this next high-level moment and to jointly support civil society participation in preparations for and during the midterm review. So I'll leave it there. Thanks so much for your attention. And please do follow along our online communications for more updates about our cross-committee collaboration in the coming weeks. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you, Nazli. So we are also pretty sure that our collaboration will be very strong and influential, and with the best possible outcomes at the end. We'll do our best to collaborate as good as possible in the forthcoming months and weeks and months. Okay, So now I think we have time for questions and answers. Right, Sarah?
Correct. I have been trying to answer a lot of questions in writing already.
Yeah.
You can see the answer question in the Q&A section and go back to questions asked before. And I think there's now one hand raised. So maybe we want to give them the floor if possible. And then, Matej, I think we can go to Lucia's input. Seboniso, you should be able to talk now. If you have a question, please go ahead.
Yes, please, thank you very much. Я хочу перейти на русский язык. А я бы хотела спросить у вас по поводу вопроса Матея Козера о том, что у вас имеются членские взносы. Скажите, пожалуйста, стоимость членских взносов, какую сумму нужно заплатить и куда нужно заплатить, чтобы стать членом организации? Спасибо большое.
Yeah, thank you for your question. We think that the membership fee is it's very symbolic, and it depends on the income of the non-governmental organization, the member organization. So less income you have, less you pay for the membership fee. And also until next year, there was also a possibility for members less than $10,000 income to not to pay the fee. But we decided that even those organizations can probably afford a few tens of dollars of membership fee, which would really help Vienna NGO committee to organize some events and to pay for our expenses we have. So we will keep this membership fee as much symbolic as possible, and of course, more income members have, more they pay. But I think it's not higher than $150, if I'm not wrong. So I don't know each number for each category. But everything is it's also written, it's published on the website, so you can simply go to our website and check for each category of members how much the membership fee is. So I hope I helped with the answer.
We have 3 more hands raised. I just suggest maybe taking one now and then going to the next presentation to make sure that we have enough time.
Okay.
Alberto, you should be able to talk now.
Sí. Quiero que la traductora me pueda ayudar. Bueno, realmente no es una pregunta, sino que le estoy saludando desde la ciudad de Coronel Oviedo, Paraguay, y yo quiero agradecerles a cada uno de ustedes por haber donado su tiempo, a hacer todo lo posible para que el día de hoy nos podamos nosotros encontrar, por lo menos virtualmente, porque este es un gran trabajo que conlleva no solamente horas de escritorio, sino que también muchas veces sacrificios personales y laborales. Así que yo quería tomarme este momento para agradecerle a cada uno de ustedes por unirnos y por estar ahí. Así que muchísimas gracias a cada uno de ustedes por la posibilidad que nos dan. Gracias.
Thank you very much. So we will take another question, right?
We have one more. Yes, David Kiza, you should be able to talk now.
Oui, bonjour. Je pense que vous m'écoutez très bien. J'ai une préoccupation. Je suis en République démocratique du Congo, précisément à Kinshasa. Je fais partie de l'organisation nationale d'AZOD, c'est-à-dire Dynamique Action pour la solidarité et le développement. Maintenant, nous mettons en jeu un projet de lutte contre la drogue ici à Kinshasa, en partenariat avec VIFA. Alors, ma préoccupation concerne l'Assemblée de Vienne qui va se tenir au mois d'octobre. Alors, nous voudrions savoir qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire pour participer à cette Assemblée de Vienne du mois d'octobre. Est-ce qu'il faut une cotisation? Est-ce que nous pouvons envoyer nos membres directement? Et comment nos membres auront les visas? Est-ce que l'ONG peut disposer les billets pour que nos membres, 2 ou 3 personnes, puissent arriver à Vienne le mois d'octobre? Qu'est-ce qu'il faut normalement pour être là? Merci.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Usually it's the best that you connect with civil society organization with the ECOSOC status and be part of their group because NGOs with ECOSOC status can get access and also badges for their members and participants in their group. So this is probably the best to connect some global networks you're probably already connected with and ask them if you can be part of their group so they can apply for your access and the badge. And then you have your own probably issues with the visa and so on. So this is usually the case to get visa and a flight ticket and hotel, and you're in Vienna and you can contribute to all discussions. So it's even not necessary to be Vienna NGO Committee member organization. As I explained, you can come to Vienna in other ways as well and contribute to discussions. So I hope I covered everything important. If not, please.
If I may add, Matej, I mean, of course, I understand your question was focusing more on in-person participation, but just to let you know, and I will also mention it now in the next part of the presentation, the October thematic discussions, they will also be in hybrid format. So they will also be available online. And even for those who are not registering through the normal channels, through the VNGOC Committee or the Indico system that we have in place, I will describe it later, you can follow all the discussions on the UN Web TV. I can maybe, I don't know if I have all the links here because there are quite a few links. It's one link per meeting, so it's a bit confusing, but I can maybe forward it to the colleagues from the Civil Society Unit so that you can all have access to it in case, for whatever reason, an NGO is not able to make it to Vienna, that you can still follow everything online. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, it's live streaming, so it's directly. You follow what is happening in the room.
And there's also a recording archived as well, which is wonderful about UN Web TV. So if the time zone doesn't work for you to watch it live, you can always catch it later, which is great. Thanks.
Great. Do we have enough time for another question?
I think maybe we can go to Lucia's presentation now. That might also answer quite a few questions.
Yes, we will still have enough time later on for questions and discussion.
Okay, so I hope you can all see it. Do you see the slide? Yes, okay, good. So now this is a bit the part that more in depth on the October thematic discussions. I mean, a few of my colleagues have already mentioned thematic discussions as such, which have been taking place since 2016, but more closely related to the ministerial declarations since 2019. On the left part of the screen, you can see a few of the photos that from past discussions, and on the right-hand side, this is the banner for this year's thematic discussions. So as I said, in past years, the discussions focus on 2 drug-related challenges. This year it's different. We are covering all 11 drug-related challenges that were set in the ministerial declaration, so it's quite a lot to take on. It's a very comprehensive thematic range that we have in front of us. We have put together a website. I think it was already shared through the chat, where we post and update information on the upcoming thematic discussions. And in order to be able to manage all these topics, what we have done is we will have 3 days in October and 3 days in December for discussion. Now we have clustered the topics thematically. So in October, we will be focusing more on drug supply and organized crime related issues. For instance, the challenges that there's more and more drug use, that the number of substances is increasing, that markets and new markets are expanding. We have reached record levels of cocaine production and so on and so forth. But also on the organized crime side, we have issues such as the fact that the value of the assets that are confiscated in relation to drug trafficking is still very, very low. With these new technologies, of course, the internet is also used as a misuse, if I may say, to facilitate drug trafficking across borders, but also domestically. And lastly, we have also the challenge of responses to drug challenges, which are not really abiding by the 3 international drug control conventions, or which do not respect human rights. So these are a little bit the topics that we are going to be dealing with in the October session. For the December session, I won't focus so much on this, since we are mostly interested in the most recently upcoming session, but we have grouped them together because they are all somehow related to health issues. So HIV and AIDS, unmet need for drug use and for treatment and health services, the adverse consequences of new psychoactive substances, how to deal with the challenges now of synthetic opioids and misuse of or non-medical use of prescription drugs, and lastly also the fact that a lot of substances that are placed under international control are not available for medical purposes. People still need medicines for pain relief or for palliative care. I think somebody was mentioning in the chat room whether there would be a talk about palliative care. This would most likely fit under this challenge on how to make medicines available for end-of-life care. So as you can see, it's a very comprehensive range of topics that we're dealing with. Briefly on the format, we will have this year a different format. Since we have so many topics in front of us, we will have half a day for each of the topics. We will not have a panel discussion as such, but instead we will be, sorry, I'm skipping a little bit in between. Well, here I just to say that there will be a morning and an afternoon session for each of the challenges. You can see the schedule on the screen. The discussions will be held in English only, and they will be, as I mentioned earlier, held in person and online. They will also be webcast on UNWeb TV. The meeting in the morning will be from 10 to 1 and to Vienna time, and in the afternoon from 3 to 6 Vienna time. And the structure, which is what I wanted to get at, will be a bit different. So for every challenge that I mentioned in the slides before, there will first be 2 introductory presentations by UNODC. One will be delivered by our research colleagues, and another one by an expert on the specific topic at hand. And the second part of the discussion will be a guided discussion, so that the chair of the commission, who is currently the ambassador of Colombia, he will be chairing the discussions, and he will give the floor to the different speakers, who will make interventions, short interventions of 3 minutes each. Now, the aim of these discussions is really to make it quite dynamic, interactive, and to focus not so much, or not at all actually, on what organizations and countries have done. We don't necessarily need to hear of all the programs that have been implemented, but rather, what have you learned from it, right? What have you learned from your NGO projects, for instance? What has been useful information, whether it's a mistake that led you to learn something, or whether it's a good practice that has made good changes in your community. So we want to hear about these good practices and lessons learned, so that it can be useful information for others who are working also to advance in addressing the world drug problem. For those who might still have something else to add or to make longer statements, these longer statements will be posted online. So don't worry, if you have more to say than what fits into these 3 minutes, you will still get it out there somehow online. And well, Matej already mentioned a bit the number of speakers that would be participating in the thematic discussions. There will be up to 3 per thematic session or per challenge, so 18 in total, nominated by the VNGOC committee. And the outcome would also be a summary of the chair of the commission, but is not negotiated. It's a summary of the deliberations. Now, to facilitate this discussion, because it is a lot of, it is challenging, we have put together a discussion guide. In this discussion guide, you will be able to find an overview of the latest trends, policy measures that have been discussed in previous thematic discussions, and also questions that the chair himself might draw upon to guide the discussion. So the thematic guide, you can read it online. Maybe I will share now the link in the chat room if it hasn't been done already. It follows the structure of the 11 challenges. So first, there's an introduction as to what are the International Drug Control Conventions, what is the work of the CND, what are the policy commitments, the midterm review, all these policy aspects. And then it goes challenge by challenge, background, policy measures, questions, right? So it is, I think, quite helpful to get a bit of a snapshot of where we stand. Also because it draws heavily on the 2023 World Drug Report. So it has very, very recent data, and it can give you a good understanding of where we stand on each of the topics. And just maybe a couple of last things is, we put together a Secretariat follow-up portal where you can find all the contributions that have been made since 2019 during the thematic discussions. These can be searched by year, by topic, by type of speaker, whether it's a member state or an NGO, etc. And I think it's just a good repository if you want to refresh or get up to speed with the different topics, and to facilitate an understanding of what best practices have already been shared on all of the challenges. So please do visit it. We have the link here on the left, bottom left. And of course, we also have a few learning tools. One of them is on the international drug policy commitments, which is also available online in the link below. And another one, which I think I didn't add here, on access to controlled substances for medical purposes and scientific purposes. So you can, all of this information you can find on the CND website. And yeah, I'll stop here and we can continue the discussion. Stop sharing, there we go.
Yeah, thank you, Lucia. That was brilliant. So many tools and guidelines and to search. So it's
Hopefully
really
not too many, not too confusing.
no,
Huh?
development is really impressive. So thank you very much for giving all these tools and guidelines for us to better navigate through this system, because sometimes it could be complicated a little bit. So with these tools and guides, will be much easier to follow. And I already brought some notes here. So we will definitely promote the discussion guide and also all the links to the portal and all other valuable tools. So our members could their lives could be much easier in the next couple of months. Thank you very much. So Sarah, we again have some space for questions, right?
Yes, exactly. I think one of the questions or follow-up question to something Lucia said regarding the possibility to post longer statements on the CND website was whether these longer statements would then also be reflected in the chair's summary, or if that would only reflect oral interventions.
Sorry, I missed that. Can you say that again? I don't know if it was a question for me. Sorry, I was reading one of the Q&A and I got
sorry, yeah, it's part of the Q&A section. And there's one question as a follow-up to your explaining that there is the possibility to post longer statements on the website that are longer than the 3 minutes. And the question is whether these longer statements then will also be reflected in the summary of the chair, or whether the summary of the chair will only focus on what actually happens in the room.
No, the summary of the chair focuses strictly on what has been discussed in the room. So the documents that are posted online are for consultation, but they're not as such reflected. And I have to say, even, I mean, these summaries that we put together, they are quite succinct. So it's not that you will find references to specific speakers. You will not find the United States has said so and so, this NGO has said that and that. No, we try to bring to identify the common themes that have come up. So the patterns, what are the topics that are recurring, what are the lessons learned that have been mentioned several times, because otherwise it would be more like a transcript of what has happened. And what we want is more to have a summary that is digestible and that people can easily read and have an understanding of what has been discussed, what are the key points. So it's phrased, I mean, you can also consult online the chair summaries that have been put together in the past. I will actually now share the link here, because those are quite useful to have an understanding. And then what happens with this outcome or the summary of the chair is that this document is presented to the commission the following year as a reference material. It's not negotiated or anything like that. It's just a document that delegates and those who attend the commission session the following year, they can read through to have a better understanding of what the discussion has been. I hope that's clear.
Thank you. And then we have one person that raised their hands, Yolanda. You should be able to talk now and pose your question.
Hi, everyone. My question is, I do have a strong background in the medical field. I'm more like of a person that is focused on preventing instead of cure, but when cure is needed, so of course it is needed. So my question is, how do we prevent early introduction of painkillers to children? Like, I was working at a clinic, and that 13-year-old girl walked in with cramps, and she was prescribed Percocet. So imagine by the age of 43, she will be addicted to that Percocet. She wouldn't be able to live with it. And certain medication gets into the wrong hands, and she might be selling those Percocets to other people that will misuse it, or she might be able to misuse it herself, given that I also work in the education system. So how do we campaign against early introduction of painkillers to children? That way we can prevent the misuse of painkillers in the late stages.
If I may say, I'm of course working for the Secretariat to the Commissions. I'm not necessarily an expert specifically on this topic, but I do want to say that UNODC does actually quite a lot of work on prevention and treatment, but both. And in fact, you're right. Early prevention is one of the most effective ways of preventing misuse of drugs at the later ages. So they have put in place at the UNODC several programs, for instance, working with families. They have a strong families program. They focus on not only on awareness raising on what the dangers are of using or drugs or prescription medications, but also working so that families are better equipped to deal with these issues and to help support their children in preventing or in monitoring what is happening with their let's say habits. That's one topic. Of course, there are also the whole area of work that is done with health, the health ministries and how to issue protocols so that the prescription of drugs is reasonable and there's no overprescription. So there's a lot of awareness raising to be done also among health personnel themselves at government level. It's a huge task, but now with the unfortunate crisis that we have both in the US with the use of fentanyls and in North Africa and Asia with the use of tramadol, I think this has awareness about this topic has increased. So there are more and more initiatives and more people joining hands to make sure that this is addressed in a comprehensive way. But perhaps we could also put the link to the specific part of UNODC dealing with prevention on the chat. I can look for it now so that you can have a better idea of what UNODC is doing.
Thanks, Lucia. I just added the link in the chat.
Great.
Okay, thank you, Lucia. And also, the advantage of and the benefit of having NGO marketplace is also that you can search for relevant prevention or treatment organizations in your region or in your country, so you can connect easily with them and try to I don't know, promote some interventions in the field of prevention or treatment or recovery or harm reduction. So it's a huge database of information and different organizations, so you can connect with them and get even more valuable information for your specific needs. Okay, so let's continue with this workshop. This is also a very important part of the workshop because it will give you guidelines on how to apply as a speaker. What is important, what are the criteria. So Penny, thank you for accepting this this interesting task. So please, the screen and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Matej. I'll just wait for the slides to start. I can see them. Thanks, Sarah. We've got the PowerPoint mode, not the share mode, but that's probably fine. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. I'd like to say, unfortunately, I'd like to say good morning from Australia. It's just ticked over for me, so it's quite late in the middle of the night, but always very happy to be here. My name is Penny Hill. I'm the Deputy Secretary of the VNGOC. And I'd just like to acknowledge that I'm joining the meeting from the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I'd like to pay my respects to any Indigenous elders who might be joining us for these discussions. So thank you very much, everybody around the world, for joining us today. So we'll get started with the selection criteria. If you could just move to the next slide, Sarah, thank you. Oh, yeah, this one. Thank you. We've got on the screen, and what has already been mentioned in the call today, we currently already have the speaker selection or the application out for the first thematic intersessional or thematic discussion. And the opportunity actually closes in about 10 days time. So thank you everybody for joining. It's been open already, but we'd just like to make sure that everyone understands that the discussions that will be held in October, the deadline is on the 17th of September to apply for those opportunities. We also will be putting out the call for speakers for the December intersessional. We'll probably put that out in October and it will probably close in November. We'll send out all of these dates. And we'll again be, as Matej has already mentioned, we'll be putting out another call in around January for the March session and the roundtable. So I'd just like to mention as well that as you can probably tell, coming from Australia, I have a long way to travel when we travel to Vienna. So we do, particularly for the people aiming to get there in person, we do typically try to make sure that we make our decisions as soon as possible after those closing dates and let the successful applicants know, so that if you are planning to travel, you've got as much time as possible to do that. But in the next few slides, you'll see that we actually take a lot into consideration when we look through all of the abstracts that come through that are submitted. So we do have a lot to get through, but we do try and make those decisions as soon as we can and let all the applicants know. So thanks, Sarah. I'd just like to note as well, if you haven't already, sign up to the VNGOC newsletter through the website, and you'll get all of the updated information for all of these opportunities as they come through. You'll already be subscribed to the newsletter as a member, but you can sign up. You don't have to be a member to sign up to our newsletter. So the selection criteria itself, as you can see, these criteria were developed about 5 years ago, and they have remained the same over that time. They were developed by the Civil Society Task Force that has already been mentioned tonight for the ministerial segment 5 years ago for 2019. And these criteria aim to ensure the broadest possible representation from our big, broad church of civil society representatives that make up the members and extensions of members of the Vienna and the New York NGOC committees. So I'll speak to these individually, but we do have time for questions at the end. So please make sure when you make an application that you are making an application to a topic that is relevant to your work. As Lucia has already mentioned, we do really like to see really specific responses in the abstracts that come through. So examples of good practice, lessons learned. You would be less likely to be successful if you just put in a generic application just about a general topic related to drug policy. We really would like to see really specific ones. And we have so many challenges to get through across both thematic discussions. There should be something that's very specific to your work. So I just wanted to make a key point that we'd like to see abstracts that come through that are very specific. We also take into account the, before I move on, I would really encourage and echo Lucia's comments before of people reading through those, the discussion guide for these thematic discussions. If you're trying to write a really relevant, specific application to the specific challenges, those discussion guides and questions could be really helpful in making sure you're writing something that would aid constructive discussion throughout the session. So we really encourage you have a read through them when you're writing up your abstract. So for the expertise of the applicant, we do try and balance between a high level of expertise and also new voices. We always like to encourage new voices coming into these discussions. We've been running these opportunities for a number of years now, and we do like to have a balance of people with extensive expertise and new voices as well. We also always make selections based on a range of different views. There is a lot of different views that make up our membership for the Vienna NGOC and broader civil society, and we do work together when we're assessing the applications and the abstracts, to make sure that we're getting as broad a representation as possible in each of the sessions and throughout the whole intersessional as well. So we try and keep it balanced across all of the sessions as we go through them. In terms of the focus of the presentation, we do try and balance. We have some applications that come through speaking from an international perspective or a regional perspective, and we have others that really focus in on the local level and what the work that you're doing on the ground, perhaps on the national or even more local level. So we do try and make sure that we balance these out as well across all of the sessions. We make decisions based on a geographical balance as well. We always try and make sure that we are selecting abstracts that cover all geographic regions of the world, so we can get a really good balance of different views coming through from different parts of the world. We do also aim to have a gender balance and also an age balance as well. We try and make sure that we have younger voices and more experienced voices coming through all of the sessions as well. And then, as already been mentioned, we do have 2 modes of delivery. There'll be people who are able to come and speak in person in the sessions, but there's also the opportunity for online interventions as well. And just to echo what's already been discussed, for the thematic discussions, you do not need to have ECOSOC to apply for these opportunities. So if you don't have ECOSOC currently, sometimes it takes a long time to get that. Please don't let that discourage you from applying, because we'd like to see as many abstracts come through as possible. So one kind of final thing to note just on the selection criteria is that we always aim to come to consensus as the relevant committees when we're making these decisions. So we as the board members that make these decisions come from a range of different backgrounds, and we always try and maintain that balance across all of the decisions we're making with speakers. So thanks, Sarah. Thanks for going back. We'll go to the next one now. Thank you. So for submitting a good abstract, as I've already mentioned, we really would encourage that you really read through the call for speakers. If you've got access to the form at the moment for the one that's out, you'll see that it's only for that 1st October session. Please make sure you read through all of the different topics and make sure that you submit applications for the topics that are relevant to you. And keep in mind that for this first session, there is the following session. So maybe have a look through all of the different challenges and make a plan for, you might submit for one topic this time and another one next time. Just make sure that you're aware of all of the different opportunities so that you're applying for the right topic for you and make sure it's relevant to your work on the ground as well. So please completely fill out the form, answer every question that we have on there. That is always very useful for us to make sure that we have as much information as possible. Please present yourself clearly, mention your experience and expertise relevant to the topic. And please make sure that you write a clear and concise abstract. We do really ask that everybody keeps their abstracts to the word limit of 150 words. I think it's around 500 characters. Sometimes abstracts come through a little longer than that, and we really find it hard to get through everything in time and make decisions in good time if we're getting abstracts that are too long. So please be clear and concise and relevant to the theme. And yeah, a very good thing to do would be consider asking somebody to proofread and give feedback on your abstracts as you come through before you apply. So we've got on the slide, we typically receive around 30 applications. As there's already 200 people on this call, maybe we'll be getting a bit more than that, and we'll have to have very long meetings to go through these applications this time. But we really do encourage everyone to apply for as many topics that are relevant to your work, and really make sure that your abstract is clear and concise. So I think, yeah, that was all for that slide. We've just got one more, do's and don'ts. We'll publish these slides on our website as well. Maybe it's a good little checklist before you submit your abstract to just double check that you've done these things that we've suggested and maybe avoided the things that we've requested that you avoid. So as we've already said, apply for relevant opportunities to your work. Make sure you complete all sections of the form. Speak to your individual experience and the experience of your organization. Make sure you focus on the topic, and definitely review your application before you submit it. And again, please do not apply for all opportunities unless, of course, you do work relevant to all the 11 challenges, which would be quite exceptional. But please just apply for the ones that are most relevant to you. Don't skip the questions in the form. Don't give us general information about you or your work. As we said, it's much better to be specific and not be vague in an abstract. We really find it hard to select abstracts if they've not been specific to the topic. And just, yeah, in general, please don't leave it till the last minute to apply, noting that we've only got about 10 days before the first one is due. Thank you. Thanks, Sarah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Penny, for an excellent presentation. So it's needed every time, because we also receive some abstracts which are not submitted based on the criteria. So we want to avoid this as much as possible. So you apply with the good quality abstracts. It would be even more challenging for us, but that's what we want. So no hard feelings if you submit quality abstracts, and as many of you submit quality abstracts. So we actually want it. So it's then our workload is bigger, but the purpose is that we have first quality abstracts and then also quality speakers. Okay, so we still have some time for questions, especially for this last session. Do we have any very specific for the selection process?
There was one question from Ghana, and other VNGOC board member. Thank you so much for joining, Ghana. And she reminded us to clarify on the languages of the abstract and possible languages of the presentation itself.
Typically we only are able to accept abstracts that come through in English. I actually don't know the answer to whether or not you can present in other languages. I understand the thematic discussions are all occurring in English. In the past, sometimes we've had video abstracts with text translation, but I'd like to refer to a colleague to find out if that might be possible this time or not.
Lucia, do you want to answer that? I think you're
yeah, sorry, yeah. So as you rightly said, the discussions will be held in English only. That means that in English only, of course. And then if there are any video messages that are submitted in another language, there have to be subtitles in English. Otherwise, we will not be able to accept it. So it's very important, please, that you either deliver the statement in English or have subtitles to a video in English. Thank you. This is the way it is. It's not the regular session of the CND for which we always have specific funding for interpretation, but for these intersessional meetings that are more informal, this is not necessarily always the case. So this is why it has to be in English.
And Lucia, could I ask you to maybe share again the slide with the topics of the October discussion, because sure. There are some questions in the chat regarding on what to focus on.
Yes.
So it might be helpful for people to see that again.
Of course, yes. And of course, I think that it's also good if you go to the, can you see this?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Could you
let me
maybe
put in presentation mode, yeah. Okay, too far. Okay, so these are the topics for October. So we have expanding and diversifying range of drugs and drug markets, record levels of drug abuse and illicit production and trafficking, increasing links between drug trafficking, corruption, and other forms of organized crime, low value of confiscated process of crime related to drug trafficking, criminal misuse of ICT for drug trafficking, and the non-compliance of responses with the International Drug Control Conventions and with human rights obligations. So these are the 6 topics that you will find covered in the October session. And again, I do go to the discussion guide because there you can find a lot more information on what each of these topics means and what are the latest trends, what are the practices that have been discussed and have been found to be effective at past discussions of the Commission. So yes, let me just see if there are any questions specifically on this that you mentioned, Sarah.
No, I think there was just this question from Vishnu.
Okay.
Kind of, do we have to focus on drug policy issues or service and its impact too? So just wanted to remind people that the October was more focused on this cross-cutting issues towards organized crime.
That's right.
And then I have seen quite a few questions. So on recording, so just to say again that the recording will be available on the VNGOC and Civil Society Unit's websites probably starting tomorrow. And we'll share the link to the recording with all participants early next week.
And I think it's also important to mention about the abstracts. We prefer to receive them in English. That's also written in the guidelines. However, we don't exclude automatically those written in other languages. So we try to use some, Google Translate and figure out what is the content of the abstract. But then if we accept it as a relevant abstract, then the presentation should be in English if the discussions or the event is only in English. So that might be a challenge afterwards if we select speaker with abstract written in another language. So, but it's not automatically excluded. We prefer to get them in English, but sometimes we try to do our best also to figure out what is the content of abstract in other languages.
Matej, do you think we have time for 2 or 3 questions from the floor? I see a few hands raised.
Yes.
So
still
then
6 minutes until the end.
Alok Mohan, you should be able to talk now and ask your question.
Hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Am I audible?
we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm Alok from India, working for drug user people for over 20 years. I just wanted to know, you have to mention, I have to limit my words into 150 words only, or I can increase a bit. Or shall I put some snaps and photograph regarding to abstract? Just wanted to know a little guidance. Am I audible?
Sure. Sorry, I didn't quite catch. Did you mean you were planning to put some images?
I said in that
or...
one slide you said it should be limited to 150 words. Am I right?
Yep, 150 words would is around.
That's what I wanted to know. May I increase a little? I mean, little longer, maybe 275. It would be acceptable or not? I mean, just wanted.
We really do encourage that you keep it under that limit.
Okay. So, I mean, one more thing, shall we put some, because, I mean, if you put it online, that will be very longer and heavy and by weight also. So, shall we put regarding this some photograph also or anything else?
I don't think we have that option.
It's not
in
required.
The form,
yeah.
unfortunately,
Okay.
yeah. So just
it's not
the
required. Okay.
And the responses.
Thank you very much.
To the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
And then we have Chris Licano Anderson. Chris, are you able to speak? Perhaps not. Then Vishnu, do you have a follow-up question to your question in the chat?
Hello.
Chris, is that you?
Yes, I'm the one.
Okay, great. Please go ahead.
Yes, I'm Chris Anderson, Nakano Anderson from Liberia. And I'm glad to be here today in this section. I'm actually new into this entire sector, but for the past 2 years, since 2018, we've been involved with schools and teaching people on preventive measure regarding substance abuse, because we found in recent time that teenagers have been pouring so much into narcotic substances, and a lot of them are breaking away from homes, dropping off schools, and some are leading to death. At such, of recent, we've gotten involved into the registration process and setting up an office to make ourselves extremely legitimized. But we are concerned to form a part of this body that will give us further information on how we could make more progress in terms of narcotic substances prevention and other vital ones that could help to save the human race in this part of Liberia. So we are asking if there's a specific group that we could contact to be able to assist us in terms of information, in terms of ideas on what next to do, as once we want to have ourselves legitimized.
Do you think to receive support and some guidance to establish your own institution, if I understand correctly?
Yes, that's, I think, what was asked.
Yeah, but I think it depends on the national legislation. So probably there is a law on how you can establish organization or institute or non-profit organization. It depends a lot on national legislation, because we are in each country we have different legislation. So we might provide some general advice, but not very specific on how to establish NGO in Liberia. But I'm sure we can provide some guide, some advice. Is Chris still with us?
I think maybe not.
Yeah,
And
I think it's the best if Chris, please send us an email, and we will do our best maybe to give you at least some general advice and guidance how to proceed with establishing NGO in your country. Thank you.
And I think with that we've reached our the hour or the half hour and the end of our time. Matej, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for participation, to speakers and panelists for your contribution. It was a great workshop, very informative, very valuable information. Our members and also other civil society representatives get from you. So I believe it will be much easier to proceed with applying for speaking slots for October and then also for December, and also for next year for a midterm review and the CND. So I'm pretty sure this workshop will help many of you to submit good abstracts and be actually selected also for speaking slots. So thank you very much for participation, and see you next time. We will announce also a similar workshop for December's thematic discussions, and I hope you can join us as well in November. Thank you.